The night of Halloween is older than costumes and candy. It is older than pumpkins, older even than the name Halloween. It began in fire and fear when the Celts stood on dark hillsides and watched the year itself die. Imagine it. Every hearth in the valley cold, families huddled in silence, waiting for one sacred flame to be struck by the Druids. Beyond the circle of firelight, the world was alive with shadows, spirits of ancestors, fairies roaming from their mounds, and darker forces no one dared to name. Apples and nuts whispered secrets of the future, while carved lanterns glowed to ward off wandering souls. Then came the Romans with their orchards, the church with its saints, the Middle Ages with their witches, and at last the New World with its pumpkins and parades. Halloween became a patchwork of centuries, stitched together from fear and faith, from death and delight. And yet, at its heart, it has always been the same. One night in the year when the boundary thins, when fire defies darkness, and when the living remember they are never alone. This is the story of Halloween, its birth, its transformation, and its survival through thousands of years. The October wind moves over the hill like a living thing, carrying the smell of damp grass and peat smoke. In the dark, a single candle trembles inside a hollowed gourd. Its small flame pushes back against the night like a stubborn sentinel. Down in the valley, hearths have been allowed to die on purpose. Families sit in cold rooms, trusting that one sacred fire kindled here on the height will be carried back to every cottage before dawn. Tonight is Samhain, the hinge of the Celtic year, the end of summer and beginning of winter, a night the people believed thinned the boundary between the living and the dead. Cloaked figures gather in a wide ring. Children cling to their mothers, peering through crude masks, wolves cut from bark, skulls washed in ash, witches stitched from scraps of cloth. These are not toys, they are shields. If spirits roam, better to pass unseen. On a flat stone near the center, bundles of dry kindling wait. A druid steps forward, white robe pale in the moonlight, oak leaves bound to the crown of his staff. He kneels and sets a socketed fireboard in the dust. The bow drill creaks, wood against wood, patience against silence, until a brown dust begins to smoke. A coal is coaxed into tinder, breathed upon, and suddenly a tongue of flame licks the air. The ring of faces exhales as one. The sacred fire is born. With it, the year turns. Samhain was the most serious festival of the old Celts. Harvest was finished, herds were culled for winter, stores were counted with clear eyes, but more than survival was at stake. On this night, people believed the veil between worlds thinned until almost anything might step through. Beloved ancestors, helpful spirits, and other wanderers less kind. Protection mattered. So did praise and courtesy. Every gesture tonight carries weight. Around the growing blaze, a rough table holds apples and hazelnuts, a wooden bowl of clear water, and a black iron cauldron murmuring at the fire's lip. Young men toss hazelnuts into the embers and watch the flare. If two named nuts burn quietly side by side, a match will keep. If one jumps away with a sharp pop, it is a warning to the heart. Girls peel apples into long ribbons and cast the curls over their shoulders. On the earth, the coil falls into letter shapes, and giggles go up. Hope, teased out of fruit and chance. What will become parlor games centuries later are, tonight, Small rituals of divination, serious in intent, because the year ahead is unknown. Beyond the comfort of the circle, the field is a deeper kind of black. Out there stands a wooden door, with no wall to hold it. Pale light leaks around its edges. The latch lifts and settles, as if tried by an invisible hand. No one goes near. Thresholds are dangerous on Samhain. They are places where two realms might touch. House and night, warmth and cold, this world and the next. A door can be a welcome or a wound. Long before Samhain's hill fires, people learned to read the world by the sun. Its rising summoned work and hope. Its sinking warned of cold and hunger. Across ancient Europe, stones were lifted to catch its path, circles and corridors that trapped a blade of dawn on the shortest day or framed sunset on the longest. The Celts did not worship the stones so much as the order they revealed, the faithful pulse of light returning after darkness. Under oak canopies, where the air tasted green, Druids kept that order. The oak's endurance made it a living temple. Its branches reached for the sky, its roots trusted the earth. Among its limbs grew mistletoe, cut with a crescent knife so that the host tree was not harmed. The same people who settled disputes and taught remedies also knew how to make a forced fire, not by luck spark, but by will. Wood pressed to wood with a bow drill until the first red ember sighed into being. Fire was the sun's twin in the human hand, created, tended, shared. Misinformation. On appointed nights, households extinguished their hearths and stood in darkness, not as a punishment, but as a rehearsal for the world's deep turn. From the priest's effort, a single sacred flame leapt and was divided into many. Brands carried that light from threshold to threshold. Clay bowls cradled it home. Cattle were guided between twin bonfires so that smoke might bless hide and breath. Mothers held infants toward the warmth. Elders eased aching joints and murmured thanks. In the glow, faces looked older and kinder. It was not spectacle, it was survival. Shields' tombols taught children what their tongues could not yet say. A circle with spokes scratched on a pendant. A wheel carved into a door lintel. A hooked turn that once meant only the sun's motion. Not the evil centuries would later tie to it. These were diagrams of hope. On some hills, a great wheel was set alight and rolled toward the valley, a bright law written against the dark, promising that what falls will rise, that descent is not the end. Merrings bound the people to the year. Grain went into the fire, a prized animal sometimes followed. Words of gratitude rose with the smoke. Someone would stir the fire and wake the room with light. This is the world that underlies Halloween, the grammar of fire and return, the idea that light can be born anew by human hands and then shared. When we roll a flaming wheel down a hillside in memory, when we mark a circle on paper without thinking why, when we kindle a season's first legal flame and carry it home, we repeat gestures older than we can name. The Druids in their groves, the wheels that burned their bright arc, the cattle that passed safe between two blazes, these are not quaint curiosities. They are the backbone of a festival that learned to speak many languages: Celtic, Roman, Christian, and later, American. Before pumpkins and costumes, before doorbells and candy, there was the sun's covenant mirrored in the hearth, a quiet promise that after the long night, there will be light again. On the last night of October, a strange silence falls across the land. In every home, the fire is smothered, hearthstones lie cold, and families sit cloaked in shadow. They do this not by accident, but by law of tradition. The old year must die before the new one is born. It is Samhain, the hinge of the Celtic calendar. High on the hill, Druids crouch over fireboards, grinding wood against wood until a stubborn ember flares. The crowd holds its breath. When the ember blossoms into flame, it leaps skyward, feeding on kindling. A murmur spreads through the people, a sound of awe and relief. From this single fire, every hearth will be relit. But the flame means more than warmth. It is protection against what prowls tonight. Bracelets for Samhain was not only a turning of the year, it was the night when the veil between worlds thinned to a gossamer film. The dead might return, fairies might walk openly, and spirits not yet named could slip through. To guard themselves, families leave out bread and milk for wandering souls. A chair is pulled close to the cold hearth, in case an ancestor should enter silently and sit a while. But not all visitors are kind. A knock in the darkness might come from something that has no face. Still, stories whispered among the crowd as the fire grows. The Fomor, monstrous beings from the sea, demand tribute. In the mists, the Tuatha De Danann, bright warrior gods, stand against them. Samhain is a battle as much as a feast, a struggle of light and shadow, mirrored in the very season. Divination is everywhere. Hazelnuts are named for sweethearts and thrown into the fire. If they burn quietly together, love will last. If one leaps away with a crack, it warns of betrayal. Apples float in bowls, their skins reflecting moonlight. Youths lunge forward to seize them with their teeth, believing the first to bite will wed soon. Women melt lead and pour it into water, watching the cooling shapes for hints of future fortunes. Crowns, coffins, rings. What seemed like games to us were once deadly, serious acts of foresight. Out in the fields, fairy mounds glow faintly. Elders tell of Nera, the warrior separated only by the thinnest of walls. When the Romans came to Celtic lands, they brought with them their gods. Among these was Pomona, goddess of orchards and fruit. Her feast fell near the time of Samhain, and in the mingling of cultures, her symbols merged with the old fires. Apples and nuts, her emblems, became part of the night. In orchards lit by torchlight, young people tested fate with apples. One game placed them in a tub of water. Whoever first seized one with teeth would soon marry. Another tied apples to cords, dangling them in the air as contestants tried to catch them with their mouths. Laughter, splashing, nervous smiles. The orchard became a stage for both romance and ritual. Nuts, too, carried omens. Lovers placed them together on the hearth. If they burned side by side, it was a promise of fidelity. If one leapt away, it foretold discord. The crack of nuts bursting in the coals echoed like the voice of fortune itself. Yet behind the play was seriousness. Apples were not mere fruit. To the Romans, they were sacred to Pomona, symbol of plenty and fertility. To peel an apple in one long strip without breaking it was a quiet prayer for long life. To watch the peel fall and form the letter of a sweetheart's name was not just chance. It was fate speaking. Torchlight glimmered across rows of heavy-laden trees. Couples stole glances at each other as omens were read. The orchard glowed like a temple, the laughter of youths echoing with centuries of meaning. For here, two worlds met, the Celtic fires of Samhain and the Roman bounty of Pomona. Over centuries, these customs softened. What began as solemn divination became parlor amusement. In America, bobbing for apples at Halloween parties was a game of cheer, no longer a binding prophecy. Yet the echo of Pomona remains. Each time an apple is seized from water, each time a nut cracks on the fire, it repeats a gesture 2,000 years old. Long forgotten by name, still presides quietly over Halloween. Her fruit, her laughter, Her fortune-telling games live on in backyards and classrooms, hidden in plain sight within the night of masks and fire.